Steve Malone. Board member of Planned Parenthood Empire State Acts, Valerie McCarthy. Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Good morning, good morning. Hello, Long Island. Well, thank you for joining us on our journey to take action to protect New York values. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize some of our special guests who are with us today. We have Senator John Brooks. John Brooks, Senator. Assemblyman Tony D'Urso. Suffolk County Executive Steve Malone. Town of Babylon Supervisor Rich Schaefer. Valerie McCarthy, board member of Planned Parenthood Empire State Acts. Valerie. John Nader, president of Farmingdale State College. Julia Fenster, president of the National Organization of Women for Nassau County. Donna Chadfee and Linda Bonanno, founders of First Company Pink. Colleen Merlo, executive director of the Suffolk County Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Sonia Murdoch, executive director of Postpartum Resource Center of New York. Ivy Algazi, CEO of the Ivy Network. And to all our local leaders, elected officials, and of course our brothers and sisters in labor. Today we'll first hear from our county executive, Steve Malone. Then we'll hear from Valerie McCarthy, a member of the, as I mentioned, of Empire Acts. And of course we'll hear from our great governor, Andrew Cuomo. But let me just take a moment. Over the past year, we have watched as the progress we worked so hard for in the state of New York is being threatened by the administration in Washington. And now that very administration is advancing a Supreme Court nominee who has vowed to overturn Roe v. Wade. You can boo even louder for that. But fortunately, here's the good news. Here in the state of New York, we have strong leaders who are standing up for our values and will take action to fight back. And I'm proud to be part of an administration that is fighting back. Now, as an aside, wouldn't it be really nice if we had a state senate that stood with us and would get back to Albany and get the job done for us? Wouldn't that be nice? Well, Governor Cuomo and I are not only protecting the progress from the federal government, we're actually taking new action through regulations to protect reproductive rights in our state. And we are joined by partners all across the state, the advocates here today, representing so many organizations and the elected officials. And we need all of you. We need every one of you as a united front against this federal assault. And so, at this time, you'll hear more of the details from our governor, but I'd like to welcome the one and only, the great County Executive, Steve Malone.
Thank you, Governor. Let's hear it for Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, who's doing a tremendous job for us in Suffolk County and all across New York. I'm so proud to be here today with all of you and to see the energy and the excitement in this room, because that's exactly what we need. Today, Suffolk County and all of Long Island is rallying with Governor Cuomo to protect reproductive rights in our county and all across this state. The federal government is leading a devastating assault, and that's what this is, on reproductive rights here and all across our country. And the possibility now of a new conservative Supreme Court justice represents just the latest and I think the most significant step backwards for our country. This is now real. What we have thought about and talked about and feared for years has come to pass. We are at that moment now. But in New York, under the leadership of Governor Cuomo, we are fighting back. We are here together. We are standing together to stop this federal assault and take action to expand reproductive rights in New York, to protect those in New York. And while we've made tremendous progress in these challenging times, there is more that we can do and that we must do to protect Roe v. Wade, to ensure that women have access to reproductive health care here in New York, all across the country. So I applaud Governor Cuomo once again for standing up, speaking out, and leading and doing what is right. Under the governor's leadership, we know that whatever happens in Washington, women in New York State will have control of their own bodies and their own health. And I can tell you this, as the father of 2 young daughters, that means more to me than anything. And so I am grateful to the governor for his leadership and the work that he is doing to fight back from what is happening in Washington. And with that, I'm very proud to welcome a real leader in the fight for women's reproductive health, a member of the Board of Planned Parenthood Empire State Acts. Please welcome a leader in the fight, Valerie McCarthy.
Oh, sit down. Okay. So, as you heard numerous times, I am Valerie McCarthy, Vice Chair of Empire State Acts. And just so you know what we lovingly known as PPASA, we are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization excuse me, that advocates for public policies that protect and support sexual and reproductive health services, rights, and justice. So ever since the election, November of 2016, I have had the soundtrack to the movie Jaws running through my head. And this week it got louder. But a wise friend said something to me yesterday that I'm taking with me, and that is that Planned Parenthood is not an organization that does despair or fear. We do battle. And here, and we are enormously grateful that we have a governor who is ready to do battle with us. He will lead us to take action to protect and advance reproductive health access, since we can no longer rely on the federal government to do that. Earlier this year, under Governor Cuomo's leadership, New York passed the many pieces of the Women's Opportunity Agenda to expand opportunity for women in all walks of life. But we have more work to do, and the governor understands that our state laws must treat abortion like any other medical procedure, and that we must update New York state law to reflect Roe v. Wade. So I have no doubt that he will battle with us to ensure that all New Yorkers have access to the care that they need so that they can make their own informed decisions about their health care. Under the governor's leadership, New York is sending a clear message that we will not go back. No matter what happens in Washington, we will lead the way forward with his leadership. So join me in thanking him for his continued leadership and give a warm Suffolk County welcome to the 56th Governor of New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back in Suffolk. And let's have a big round of applause for our champion who's been battling for many years, and we are now ready for the big battle. Valerie McCarthy, thank you so much for everything. We have a great statewide champion, our Lieutenant Governor, Kathy Hochul. Let's give her a round of applause. The quarterback in Suffolk County, Steve Ballone, who's doing a great job right across the board. It's a pleasure to be with Senator John Brooks. He's with us 100%. Assemblyman Tony DeOrso is with us 100%. Town of Babylon Supervisor Rich Schaefer is with us 100%. And John Nader, President Farmingdale State College, thank you for opening the doors. Thank you for having us here today, John. Thank you. You know, let me say this. I am old. Turned the big 6-0. There is no good news about turning the big 6-0. Only rationale is they say, well, you know, 60 is the new 50. So what? 50 stinks too. But you have a little bit of advantage of some wisdom and some experience. This is the most frightening, challenging, dangerous political time that I have ever experienced. And I think I was almost in a state of shock initially, because the new administration came in, and it seems like every day something happens that is just unbelievable and incredible. And the next day it's something else, and the next day it's something else. And I thought, this is a random series of disastrous events, but it will end. How many terrible things can the federal government do before they run out of doing terrible things? I was watching TV the evening that President Trump nominated Judge Kavanaugh. And I was watching the talking heads afterwards on cable TV, and not my brother's show. That's not a talking head show. That is a deep intellectual exercise, that show. Chris Cuomo, deep intellectual talk show. But I was watching one of the other shows, and there was a conservative who was sort of bragging about what the president did, and basically said, you know, the people of America have to get over it. Elections have consequences, and we elected a pro-life president, and that's what he's going to do. And the bluntness took me back. And that is the truth. Elections have consequences. This country elected an extreme conservative administration. And they are doing what they believe. And they are executing methodically their worldview. A reporter said to me, why do you call them extreme conservative? I said, 2 reasons. Number 1, they're extreme. Number 2, they're conservative. Extreme conservative because you can have a conservative view, but they want to take their conservative view and impose it on us. They have a conservative view of what lifestyle is right, what sexuality is right, what a woman should be able to do with her body, who should be an immigrant to the United States, what religion is right. They have their worldview. Fine. God bless America. That is America. Everybody has their worldview. But they want to take their worldview and then impose it on everyone else, which, by the way, is totally hypocritical for a conservative to begin with, because the Conservative Party was about limited government and individual rights and state rights and small federal government. They flipped that on its head. Small federal government until they're in charge. Then they want a large, muscular federal government to tell you how to run your life and lead your life and what to do with your children and what to do with your body. It's shocking as a New Yorker because everything they are trying to do is repugnant to who we are and what we believe. Not just politically, but just as a body of people in this state. You want to be against immigration. You're talking to the wrong state. We are the state of immigrants. You want to be against immigration. Unless you are a member of a Native American tribe, you are an immigrant. And you want to tell us, that immigration isn't a strength and that diversity isn't a strength? It's who we are. It's what we believe. They don't believe that the LGBTQ lifestyle is appropriate. That's their belief. So one of the first things they did when they came into the administration is they said all transgender people out of the military, regardless of service, regardless of merit, you're out, because they don't believe it. They don't have empathy for poor people. They don't have empathy for working family people. So they're against the minimum wage. We believe we help people on their way up the ladder. We raised the minimum wage to $15, the highest in the United States of America, and we are proud of it because we believe in it. They are no friend to the middle class. That's why they did a tax cut plan that gave 80% to the top 1%. We're the exact opposite. We believe the middle class are the ones who are taking it on the chin. That's why we cut taxes for the middle class to the lowest level since 1947. First state in the nation to provide free college tuition for middle class families, because we believe they're the ones who are struggling. They believe that you run the economy and whatever happens to the environment happens to the environment. We believe you can grow an economy and protect the environment, which is exactly what we did in this state. We protected the environment more aggressively than ever before, and we have the strongest economy than ever before. 8 million private sector jobs in this state, highest number of jobs ever. And then they are pro-life. They are pro-life. They're now going to go through a charade of these hearings where they're going to say to the Democrats, well, you prove where Kavanaugh said he would roll back Roe v. Wade. And that will be the charade of the hearing. You know what I would do if I were senator? First witness I would call? President Trump. And I'd put him in the chair. And I'd say, President Trump, is it true you said 57 times if you are elected, you're only going to nominate pro-life judges to the Supreme Court who would roll back Roe v. Wade? So were you telling the truth then, or are you obfuscating the truth now? Kavanaugh is a pro-life judge, and he's going to roll back Roe v. Wade. That's why they nominated him. That's why they put out that list of 25 good conservatives to make all the conservatives sign off that this is going to be a pro-life judge. Why did they do it? Because elections have consequences, and we elected a pro-life president. And they said, we're going to elect a pro-life agenda. Roll back Roe v. Wade. Now, this is such an unbelievable concept that it's hard to get your head around. Roe v. Wade was 1973. 1973. They want to roll back to before 1973. You have a whole generation of women and men who don't even understand that this was ever an issue. My daughters are in their 20s. They were born in the 90s. This was decided in 1973. My daughters just assume that this is their right. They can't believe that there's really a question of whether or not they can control their own health care. I said to my daughters, well, Where do you think you got that right from? One of my daughters said, it must be in the Constitution. I said, no, it's not. It's not. It's not in the Constitution. It's not in the Bible. It's not a God-given right. It was in that court case, Roe v. Wade, and what they're saying is, if you overturn Roe v. Wade, you lose that right. My daughter said, oh, you can't be right. I said, yes, I'm the governor, I'm right. It is that inconceivable to them. They would never do that. Yes, they are doing it. They are doing it. Don't tell me what they won't do. They have crossed the line on things that you wouldn't do. You wouldn't separate a family from young children. You would never do that, would you? That's what they did. You would not make it possible to reunite the family after a federal judge told you to. That's what they did. Yes, they will roll back Roe v. Wade. And by the way, they then have two options. They can roll it back and leave it to the state law, or they could roll it back and say it's unconstitutional, period, for any state. Oh, they would never do that. Oh, no, my friends. Let's recognize the reality that we are dealing with. They have crossed that line, and they will do it again and again and again. Rolling back Roe v. Wade is so radical an idea that the Republican Senate, which has been refusing to pass a pro-choice law in the state of New York, their excuse for years has been, well, we have Roe v. Wade. We don't need a New York state law. We have Roe v. Wade. And no one would ever try to overturn Roe v. Wade. That's the New York State Republican senators have been saying that. That it was implausible that Roe v. Wade. Now, it was just an excuse, because the truth is the Republican senators have had it both ways. They talk to Planned Parenthood, and they close their office door, and the Republican senators say, oh, I'm pro-choice. And if that bill comes up, don't worry, I'm going to be pro-choice. And then they go to another group and they say, I would never vote for a pro-choice bill. They won't put the bill on the floor. They won't allow a vote. Why? Because they don't want people to be counted on the issue. They don't want to make senators say support or oppose. They want to have it both ways. And that's what they've done for years. And they could hide behind, don't worry, we have Roe v. Wade. Well, now we don't have Roe v. Wade. And this is a new, frightening world that we have to prepare for. And we have to do what Planned Parenthood has always been telling us to do. Stand up and fight back. We don't get scared. We don't run. That's not who we are as New Yorkers. New York leads the way. We always have. We always will. You look back in history at any time of transition, whether it's the women's rights movement, started here in New York, Seneca Falls. Gay rights movement started here at Stonewall Inn. Workers' rights movement started here. The union movement started here. The civil rights movement started here. And the resistance movement to this administration and their extreme conservatism and their trampling women's rights is going to start here. And remember, this did not come out of the blue. This is an administration that has disrespected women from day one. We went through the whole, they've done it personally, they've done it professionally, they've done it governmentally. We went through the whole Me Too movement. Thousands of women showed the courage to stand up and to come out and tell stories that were personally painful so we could make change. And what did Washington do? Absolutely nothing. The silence was deafening. You know what we did in the state of New York? We passed the strongest anti-sexual harassment law in the United States of America. That's what we did. So how do you stand up and how do you fight back and how do you lead? You do two things. One, I'm going to sign an emergency order that guarantees a woman's right to contraception in the state of New York. I don't care what an insurance company says. I don't care what a bureaucracy says. I don't care what the federal government says. A woman has a right to contraception in the state of New York. And number two, I want the state Senate to come back and pass a law that codifies Roe v. Wade in New York State, and I want them to do it tomorrow. Tomorrow. And let's strip away all the garbage, okay? It's very simple. All the law has to say is New York codifies the rights prescribed in Roe v. Wade in 1973. Our state law currently does not have those rights. Roe v. Wade is what we were relying on. Roe v. Wade goes away. The New York state law is weaker than Roe v. Wade. So all we need is a law that codifies Roe v. Wade. But we're not going to take any more of the political baloney and the obfuscation and the long, detailed explanation. They are either with us or against us. If they want, if a Republican senator says to you, oh yes, I'm really pro-choice deep down inside, you say, I don't care what you are deep down inside. If you are pro-choice, you go to Albany and you call your leader and you say you want to pass a Roe v. Wade for New York and you do it tomorrow. The Assembly has done it. They will do it. I will sign it the next day. It is up to the Republican Senate and it is binary. It's black, it's white. You're for us, you're against it. I'm not taking this political dance anymore. Come up and pass the law, and that's it. And then we say to them, if you do not come up and pass a law and protect women, then we're going to quote the immortal words of President Trump. And any senator that does not go up and pass a pro-choice law, we're going to say with one voice, you're fired, because elections have consequences. Let's sign the order. Thank you and God bless you.